To the perpetually impecunious scholar, the perpetually misunderstood genius, the perpetually arguing friend, this book is dedicated to all those who have ever found themselves wrestling with existential questions while simultaneously wrestling with overdue library fines. May your struggles be as memorable and perhaps slightly less financially crippling as those of our esteemed philosophical forefathers. To the modern day Diogenes, bravely navigating the complexities of Amazon Prime while simultaneously rejecting the allure of consumerism, you are a beacon of hope, a testament to the enduring spirit of contrarianism. To the contemporary Socrates, constantly correcting the grammar of internet commenters, your patience is a virtue, a monument to unwavering dedication to the pursuit of truth. And to those who find themselves drawn to the pursuit of wisdom, even if that pursuit occasionally leads to empty coffers and the mild annoyance of their neighbors, may your paths be paved with insightful conversations and slightly less hemlock. This work is dedicated to you, the inheritors of a rich and often hilariously messy intellectual legacy. For those who have ever pondered the meaning of life while simultaneously battling a particularly stubborn stain on their toga, or in modern times, a coffee spill on their favorite sweater, this one's for you. We celebrate the enduring human spirit, the tenacity of the intellectual, and the undeniable humor in the struggles of those who dare to think differently. May this book serve as a testament to the enduring power of human resilience, a reminder that even the greatest minds sometimes face the mundane challenges of daily existence. So raise a glass, of something moderately priced, of course, to the eccentrics, the rebels, and the intellectually curious, for without them, our history would be considerably less entertaining. May your future be brighter, your bank accounts fuller, perhaps, and your arguments infinitely more compelling than those of our ancient heroes. This is a dedication not just to the philosophers of old, but to the spirit of philosophical inquiry that continues to thrive, even in the face of modern day challenges. Cheerio! Chapter 1: The Barrel and the Agora. Diogenes' Unconventional Life. Diogenes, the man who famously resided in a pithos, a large storage jar, often mistakenly romanticized as a barrel, wasn't merely eccentric, he was a walking, talking, impeccably scruffy embodiment of cynicism. His life, a pointed rejection of Athenian materialism, provides a fascinating, if somewhat pungent, case study in minimalist living. Forget Marie Kondo. Diogenes' approach was less about tidying up and more about tossing it all out the window, or, more accurately, into the bustling agora. The agora, the heart of Athenian life, throbbed with the energy of commerce. Imagine a vibrant tapestry woven with the threads of merchants hawking their wares, the rhythmic clang of the blacksmith's hammer, the lively chatter of citizens exchanging gossip and news. Amidst this cacophony of activity, Diogenes, often clad in little more than rags, stood as a stark counterpoint. His pythos, situated near the bustling marketplace, served not as a dwelling in the traditional sense, but as a bold statement. It was a physical manifestation of his philosophical rejection of societal norms and the relentless pursuit of material wealth. His home, or rather his lack thereof, wasn't about mere poverty. It was a calculated act of defiance. It wasn't enough to simply own little. He aimed to demonstrate the superfluity of possessions. The pathos was a provocative sculpture, a living embodiment of his philosophy. It was a middle finger to the ostentatious displays of wealth that surrounded him, a stark reminder that true happiness wasn't found in overflowing coffers, but in the freedom from their constraints. And let's not forget the sheer audacity of choosing such a location, right in the center of the action, a constant visual reminder of his radical rejection of consumerism. One can almost imagine the reactions of passers-by. The wealthy merchants, draped in fine fabrics and smelling of expensive perfumes, must have cast disdainful glances at the unkempt philosopher. The average citizens, struggling to make ends meet, might have felt a flicker of envy or perhaps a nagging sense of discomfort at the stark contrast between their own lives and Diogenes's radical simplicity. The philosophers themselves, likely more comfortable in their draped togas and well-appointed homes, probably found him at once fascinating and deeply unsettling. He was a living paradox, a walking philosophical treatise challenging the very foundations of their society. Diogenes's interactions with the agora's inhabitants were legendary, often recounted with a mix of amusement and awe. He'd shamelessly beg for food, sometimes accepting, sometimes rejecting whatever was offered, depending entirely on his whim. He wasn't afraid to challenge the established order, to call out hypocrisy wherever he saw it. He saw himself as a sort of philosophical street preacher, a one-man protest against the excesses of Athenian society. His methods were unconventional, to put it mildly, bordering on the outrageous, but their effectiveness lay in their sheer audacity. His minimalism wasn't a carefully curated aesthetic. It was a rejection of the artificial constructs of society. It wasn't about owning less, it was about needing less. He demonstrated that happiness wasn't a product to be purchased, but a state of being achievable through a deliberate shedding of material desires. His life was a constant experiment in self-sufficiency, a practical demonstration of his philosophical tenets. He ate whatever he could find, slept where he pleased, and possessed nothing more than was absolutely essential to his survival. Let's consider the practicalities of Diogenes's minimalist lifestyle. Imagine the daily challenges of living in a pythos in the bustling agora, the lack of privacy, the exposure to the elements, the constant jostling of crowds. These were not minor inconveniences, but rather integral parts of his chosen existence. He wasn't seeking comfort. He was seeking liberation from the constraints of material possessions and societal expectations. It was a form of self-imposed asceticism, a radical stripping away of everything considered unnecessary. His actions weren't merely a performance, they were a deeply held belief system. He wasn't trying to shock or offend. He was attempting to awaken people to the absurdity of their consumerist habits. He saw through the superficiality of material wealth, recognizing the inherent emptiness of a life dedicated to the accumulation of possessions. His minimalism was a means to an end, a way to achieve a deeper level of self-sufficiency and freedom. It was an unapologetic and often uncomfortable challenge to the accepted norms of his time. This cynic's guide to minimalism wasn't a set of rules to be followed, but a philosophy to be lived. It wasn't about achieving a perfectly ordered space, but about shedding the shackles of material desire. It wasn't about decluttering, but about discarding the very idea of ownership as a pathway to happiness. Diogenes' philosophy, stark and uncompromising, remains relevant even today. In a world increasingly obsessed with acquisition and consumption, his life serves as a potent reminder that true wealth lies not in what we possess, but in what we choose to let go of. The pythos, a symbol of radical simplicity, remains a powerful metaphor for our own societal obsessions and the enduring appeal of a life lived intentionally. Furthermore, consider the economic implications of his lifestyle. While often romanticized as a rejection of societal norms and a symbol of spiritual freedom, Diogenes' lifestyle also raises questions about financial stability and the practicalities of his chosen path. He was, in effect, financially dependent on the charity of others, making his existence a precarious balancing act. His seemingly carefree rejection of material possessions didn't eliminate the need for basic necessities. Instead, it shifted the burden of provisioning onto others. This begs the question: was his minimalism truly a viable lifestyle, or merely an idealistic aspiration that proved unsustainable even for a man as dedicated as Diogenes? While his actions may inspire some to explore a more minimalist approach to life, it is crucial to acknowledge the inherent limitations and the potential for dependence that comes with choosing a life outside of conventional economic structures. It wasn't merely a rejection of societal norms, it was a constant negotiation with the realities of survival. His choices, viewed through a contemporary lens, serve as both an inspiration and a cautionary tale. Beyond the immediate practicalities, however, Diogenes' impact extends to the broader philosophical landscape. His cynicism, a school of thought emphasizing virtue, self sufficiency, and a rejection of conventional societal norms, has resonated through history, influencing generations of thinkers and shaping philosophical discourse. While his methods were often extreme, his underlying message, that true happiness lies not in external possessions, but in inner peace and virtue, continues to hold relevance. In a world grappling with issues of consumerism, environmental sustainability, and social justice, Diogenes' radical approach to minimalism offers a timely reminder of the importance of reevaluating our values and priorities. His life, lived on the margins of Athenian society, stands as a testament to the power of individual agency and the possibility of rejecting societal expectations in pursuit of a more authentic and meaningful existence. The pythos, therefore, becomes less a symbol of mere poverty and more a symbol of conscious choice, a potent reminder of the enduring questions about the nature of happiness and the meaning of a life well lived. His legacy isn't just about the simplicity of his life, but also the courage of his convictions. His unwavering commitment to his philosophy, even in the face of social ridicule and potential hardship, is a lesson in authenticity and self belief. His approach, though unconventional, serves as a powerful reminder that true liberation might not be found in acquiring more, but in letting go of the unnecessary weight of material possessions and societal pressures, allowing us to embrace a life lived intentionally and with purpose. He remains, even centuries later, a figure both challenging and inspiring, a reminder that the most radical acts of rebellion can sometimes begin with the simplest of choices. and that perhaps the most valuable possession is the freedom to choose how we live our lives. The sun beat down on the bustling agora, casting long shadows across the dust choked streets. The air thrummed with the usual cacophony, the bleating of goats, the haggling of merchants, the rhythmic clang of a blacksmith's hammer, a vibrant, chaotic tapestry of Athenian life. Amidst this throng, Diogenes, in his usual attire, or lack thereof, remained a stubbornly unmoving presence. His pathos, that seemingly humble abode, acted as a silent counterpoint to the extravagant displays of wealth that surrounded it. Word had spread, however, of a visitor of a rather different sort. Alexander the Great, conqueror of empires, was in town. News of his arrival had rippled through the agora like a seismic tremor, silencing the usual din for a moment as merchants paused their bargains and citizens craned their necks to catch a glimpse of the Macedonian king. Alexander, in all his regal splendor, was not accustomed to such unconventional encounters. Accustomed to the bowing and scraping of courtiers, the hushed reverence of conquered peoples, he was, by all accounts, intrigued by the tales of this peculiar philosopher who had chosen to live in a jar. Perhaps a touch of morbid curiosity, a desire to witness this legendary oddity firsthand, had led him to seek out Diogenes. The meeting, when it finally happened, was anticlimactic in its simplicity. No grand pronouncements or elaborate ceremonies, just Alexander, in all the glory of his conquest, standing before Diogenes, basking in the sun outside his pythos. The king, accustomed to the orchestrated grandeur of his court, must have found the setting somewhat jarring. Diogenes, Alexander began, his voice carrying a hint of both curiosity and condescension. I am Alexander the Great. Diogenes, unfazed, didn't even bother to look up from whatever he was contemplating, possibly the intricate patterns formed by the dust motes dancing in the sunlight. After a moment of what might have been considered deliberate silence, or perhaps he was simply preoccupied with more pressing philosophical matters, he uttered a single, seemingly insignificant phrase, and I, Diogenes, am a dog. The brevity of the response was almost breathtaking in its audacity. There was no polite bow, no sycophantic praise, no acknowledgement of the king's immense power, just a simple, unadorned statement that somehow managed to encapsulate an entire philosophy. It was a declaration of independence, a dismissal of the trappings of power and status, a stark rejection of the very hierarchy that Alexander himself represented. Alexander, accustomed to deference and obedience, was taken aback. He had expected awe, perhaps even fear. Instead, he was met with casual indifference, a philosophical shrug delivered with a level of nonchalance that was deeply unsettling. His courtiers, witnesses to this unexpected exchange, must have held their breath, waiting for some sign of royal displeasure. A lesser man might have been offended, even enraged by such blatant disregard for his authority. But Alexander, perhaps surprisingly, didn't react with fury. Instead, a flicker of amusement crossed his features. He continued, Is there anything I can do for you? It was an unusual question, a departure from the normal course of royal decrees. Yes, Diogenes replied, shifting slightly within his pathos. Get out of my sunlight. This second response was, if possible, even more audacious than the first. It was a perfect illustration of Diogenes' philosophy, a testament to his belief in self sufficiency and his utter rejection of subservience. It was a statement of complete equality, in which even a king was nothing more than a mere obstruction in the path of sunlight. He wasn't asking for a favor, he was making a demand, and the irony, of course, was delicious. The silence stretched, thick and heavy with unspoken implications. Alexander, surrounded by his entourage, was faced with a philosophical paradox that his military conquests couldn't begin to address. The king who had conquered half the known world was unable to conquer the unconquerable spirit of this man in a jar. The contrast was stark and powerful, a potent demonstration of the limitations of earthly power against the indomitable strength of a philosophical conviction. It's tempting to speculate on Alexander's inner thoughts at that moment. Did he recognize the profound truth in Diogenes' seemingly simple pronouncements? Did he perhaps envy the philosopher's freedom from worldly ambition? Or was he simply amused by the audacity of it all? Historical accounts differ on Alexander's exact response. Some say he was impressed by Diogenes' unwavering self-possession, others that he merely laughed and continued on his way, slightly bewildered but ultimately unperturbed. Regardless of his precise reaction, the encounter serves as a fascinating juxtaposition between two very different worldviews. Alexander, the embodiment of worldly power, was accustomed to shaping the world according to his will. He conquered nations, reshaped empires, and left an undeniable mark on history. But Diogenes, seemingly insignificant in his pathos, had his own kingdom, a realm of self-sufficiency and philosophical conviction untouched by Alexander's worldly ambitions. He represented a different type of conquest, an inner triumph over societal expectations and material desires. The meeting, brief as it was, is a potent symbol of the clash between power and philosophy, between worldly ambition and the inner peace. Alexander's vast empire was a testament to his earthly power, a monument to his ambition. But Diogenes, in his humble pathos, possessed something equally, if not more, powerful: a clear and unshakable belief in his principles and a profound self-awareness that couldn't be swayed by the allure of power or the trappings of wealth. Think of the sheer audacity of it. A king, accustomed to the bowing and scraping of courtiers, the hushed whispers of admiration and fear, is confronted by a man who essentially tells him to move. Not just move, mind you, but to move out of the way of the sun. This was not a mere act of rudeness. It was a profound philosophical statement, a rejection of hierarchy and power dynamics in favor of a simpler, more fundamental truth. The sun shines for everyone, regardless of title or status. The incident transcends its historical context to speak to a fundamental human condition: the constant tension between worldly ambition and the inner peace. Alexander's quest for power and glory was a relentless pursuit of external validation, a quest to conquer the world. Diogenes' rejection of material possessions and societal norms was, on the other hand, a quiet revolution, a turning inward to find contentment and self-sufficiency. The story continues to resonate because it speaks to the enduring tension between these two forces. It reminds us that true power is not always measured in land conquered or empires built, but in the strength of one's convictions and the courage to live according to one's own values, regardless of the consequences. Diogenes, in his Pythos, became a symbol of that very power, a reminder that even the most powerful kings can be humbled by the unwavering spirit of a man who chose self sufficiency over worldly ambition. Consider the aftermath. Alexander, despite his conquests, his vast empire, his military triumphs, remains largely remembered for the breadth of his ambitions. But Diogenes, the man in a jar, is remembered for something far greater: his unwavering integrity, his piercing wit, and his radical rejection of the very things that defined Alexander's world. His legacy endures not because of his wealth or power, but because of his unwavering commitment to his philosophy, a philosophy that continues to challenge and inspire us centuries later. He remains a symbol of anti establishment defiance, a reminder that the greatest victories are often those won not on battlefields, but in the realm of personal integrity. Furthermore, the legend highlights a subtle critique of Alexander's own brand of leadership. Alexander, for all his brilliance and military genius, was ultimately a product of his time, beholden to the conventions and hierarchies of his society. Diogenes, by contrast, transcended such limitations. His rejections of those conventions was not merely an act of rebellion, but a courageous assertion of self-determination. Their encounter, therefore, is not simply a story about a philosopher and a king. It is a story about the clash between two different ways of life, two distinct approaches to finding meaning and fulfillment. It is a timeless allegory that continues to resonate with us today, reminding us of the importance of living authentically and questioning the very foundations of power and societal expectations. The legacy of this encounter, therefore, is not only about their contrasting lifestyles, but also about the timeless questions they raise regarding personal freedom, societal norms, and the enduring pursuit of meaning in a world often dominated by material pursuits and the intoxicating allure of power. The story reminds us that true greatness often lies not in acquiring, but in relinquishing, not in conquest, but in self-mastery. Diogenes' Pythos becomes a potent symbol, not merely of poverty, but of a radical self-reliance that continues to challenge our notions of success and fulfillment. The encounter with Alexander, however dramatic, was but a single brushstroke in the vibrant, if often unsettling, portrait of Diogenes' life. While the king's visit garnered attention, it only briefly illuminated the persistent social friction generated by Diogenes' unwavering commitment to his unconventional lifestyle. His choice of a Pythos as a dwelling wasn't merely an eccentric affectation, it was a potent symbol of his rejection of societal norms and material possessions, and it inevitably invited the scrutiny, ridicule, and even hostility of Athenian society. The Athenian citizenry, a diverse tapestry woven from various social classes, responded to Diogenes in a multitude of ways, their reactions mirroring the complexities of their own lives and perspectives. The wealthy elite, accustomed to ostentatious displays of wealth and status, often viewed him with a mixture of disdain and amusement. His deliberate poverty, a conscious rejection of their opulent lifestyles, was a direct challenge to their values, a silent condemnation of their acquisitiveness. They saw him not as a philosopher, but as a beggar, a social pariah who deliberately chose to live outside the accepted societal structures. Their whispers, laced with derision, followed him through the agora, a constant reminder of his social isolation. The middle class, striving for stability and social mobility, found Diogenes both intriguing and unsettling. His philosophy, which prioritized virtue and self sufficiency over material wealth, offered a compelling, albeit radical, alternative to their ambitions. Yet, his blatant disregard for social conventions, his outspoken criticism of societal hypocrisies, and his rejection of conventional morality made him a figure of discomfort. They couldn't entirely dismiss him. His sharp wit and insightful observations often resonated, but his unconventional life remained a source of both fascination and unease. They admired his intellectual independence while simultaneously fearing the potential consequences of embracing such radical self sufficiency. The poorer classes, struggling with poverty and hardship, may have initially identified with Diogenes' material simplicity. His choice to live in a pythos could be seen as a testament to resilience in the face of adversity. But Diogenes' rejection of conventional social hierarchies and his unflinching criticism of societal structures often alienated them. He didn't merely share their poverty, he critiqued the systems that perpetuated it. His unwavering philosophical stances, detached from the immediate concerns of daily survival, often rendered him inaccessible to those whose lives were consumed by the constant struggle for basic necessities. They saw him not as a fellow sufferer, but as a detached observer, a philosopher removed from the harsh realities of their lives. Even the philosophers themselves were not immune to internal divisions regarding Diogenes. While some, impressed by his intellectual prowess and unwavering dedication to truth, found him a worthy companion, others were critical of his abrasive style and his seemingly nihilistic rejection of social engagement. Plato, for example, whose philosophy emphasized reason and societal harmony, would have found Diogenes' cynicism and radical individualism deeply problematic. His insistence on living outside the established social norms would have challenged Plato's vision of a well-ordered society. This divergence of philosophical approaches reflected the wider tensions within Athenian intellectual circles, highlighting the lack of uniformity even amongst those who shared the label of philosopher. Diogenes' unconventional lifestyle extended beyond his choice of dwelling. His public acts of defiance and philosophical pronouncements often resulted in social and legal repercussions. His infamous practice of publicly masturbating to challenge societal taboos on sexuality and his critiques of the Athenian political system likely resulted in accusations of impiety and even legal actions. This further fueled the social stigma surrounding him, isolating him further from the mainstream of Athenian society. His rejection of conventional morality and his outspoken criticism of powerful figures didn't win him friends within the established power structures. The city's elite didn't find humor in his cynicism, and his philosophical insights were often dismissed as the ramblings of a madman rather than considered as insightful criticism. The social price of Diogenes' nonconformity was substantial. He faced constant social exclusion, ridicule, and potentially legal challenges. His life, was a continuous act of defiance against the norms and expectations of Athenian society. But his actions weren't merely rebellious, they were a deliberate expression of his philosophical convictions. He demonstrated that true freedom might lie in the rejection of social pressures and the pursuit of self sufficiency, even if that path led to social ostracism. The irony, of course, was that his very ostracization amplified his message. By living outside the established norms, he became a living embodiment of his philosophy, a constant reminder of the limitations of societal conventions. His radical rejection of social norms wasn't just a personal choice, it was a form of social commentary, a silent protest against the injustices and hypocrisies he perceived in Athenian society. By living in a pythos, he exposed the absurdity of attaching value to material wealth. By challenging societal taboos, he questioned the validity of conventional morality. And by engaging in public displays of defiance, he challenged the very structures of power that governed Athenian life. His life was a continuous performance, a provocative statement that forced society to confront its own contradictions and hypocrisies. The price of his nonconformity was isolation, ridicule, and potential legal consequences, but it was a price he willingly paid. His unconventional lifestyle wasn't a path to social acceptance, it was a deliberate choice, a profound expression of his philosophical convictions. It's a testament to his unwavering commitment to his beliefs that he persisted in the face of such social pressure. He challenged his audience to reevaluate their own values and priorities, to question the norms that governed their lives, and to consider the possibility of alternative ways of being. His actions weren't simply rebellious, they were calculated acts designed to provoke thought and disrupt the complacency of Athenian society. His life was a philosophical experiment, a demonstration of the possibility of living differently, of prioritizing inner peace and self sufficiency over social acceptance and material wealth. The very act of his existence, so radically different from the norm, became a powerful critique of Athenian society's values and priorities. This ongoing challenge was arguably his most potent form of social commentary. His story thus serves as a cautionary tale and a powerful example. It highlights the often unseen cost of dissent, the social penalties imposed on those who dare to challenge established norms. Yet, simultaneously, it showcases the enduring power of individual conviction and the potential for even a single life to challenge, disturb, and ultimately reshape the collective understanding of a society. Diogenes' life, lived on the fringes of Athenian society, serves as an enduring reminder that true freedom may sometimes require a willingness to pay the price of nonconformity. His legacy continues to resonate because it invites us to consider the cost of conformity and the courage needed to live authentically, even when it means living outside the mainstream. He compels us to question not just the norms of Athenian society, but also the unquestioned societal structures that continue to shape our own world today. His legacy transcends time, his story, a constant reminder of the enduring struggle between societal expectations and individual expression. The reverberations of Diogenes' barrel, that seemingly insignificant vessel in which he chose to reside, continue to echo through the corridors of history. His life, a radical experiment in self sufficiency and a blatant rejection of societal norms, wasn't merely a personal eccentricity. It became a potent symbol, interpreted and reinterpreted across millennia, shaping philosophical discourse and impacting cultural perspectives on simplicity, rebellion, and the very nature of a meaningful life. His legacy isn't confined to dusty academic tomes. It's alive and breathing in the ongoing debates about materialism, authenticity, and the pursuit of inner freedom. Consider, for instance, the Cynic school of philosophy, which Diogenes significantly shaped, if not outright founded. His rejection of conventional morality, his emphasis on virtue as the sole good, and his unwavering commitment to living in accordance with nature, all hallmarks of cynicism, inspired countless followers. These weren't armchair philosophers, they were activists, walking embodiments of Diogenes's philosophy, challenging societal conventions with a similar zeal, albeit with varying degrees of success. They roamed the streets, much like their mentor, critiquing societal hypocrisies, challenging established power structures, and advocating for a life freed from material desires. Their impact, while perhaps less spectacular than Diogenes's individual acts of defiance, was significant nonetheless, influencing subsequent philosophical movements and shaping the intellectual landscape of the ancient world. The enduring appeal of Diogenes isn't just philosophical, it's deeply human. His story resonates because it speaks to the universal yearning for authenticity, the inherent struggle between conformity and individuality. His life, lived on the margins, serves as a poignant reminder of the tension between personal ideals and societal expectations, a tension that transcends time and culture. In an era obsessed with material possessions and social status, his conscious rejection of these very things strikes a chord, prompting a reconsideration of our own values and priorities. Are we truly living lives aligned with our deepest beliefs, or are we simply conforming to the expectations of others? Diogenes's unwavering commitment to his principles, however unconventional, poses this crucial question. His influence extends beyond the philosophical sphere, finding expression in various artistic and literary interpretations. His image, often depicted as a wizened old man with a piercing gaze, has become an iconic representation of the rebellious spirit, the lone voice challenging the established order. From classical sculpture to modern-day cartoons, his image has been appropriated and reimagined, serving as a visual shorthand for the individual's struggle against conformity. His life story has inspired countless works of literature, film, and art, constantly reinterpreted through different cultural lenses and within various philosophical frameworks. This continuous reevaluation of his legacy underlines its enduring relevance. The modern-day fascination with minimalism, a conscious rejection of consumerism, and a pursuit of a simpler life also owes a debt to Diogenes. While modern minimalism may lack the radical edge of Diogenes's existence, the underlying principle, a prioritization of inner peace and self-sufficiency over material possessions, remains strikingly similar. The minimalist movement, whether expressed in decluttering one's home or simplifying one's lifestyle, echoes Diogenes's profound critique of materialism. His life serves as an extreme, albeit compelling, example of the potential benefits of living with less, of finding contentment not in acquisition, but in inner peace and self reliance. This echoes powerfully in today's anxieties surrounding overconsumption and the frantic pursuit of material success. However, it's crucial to acknowledge the complexities of Diogenes' legacy. His abrasive personality and occasionally nihilistic pronouncements are not universally appealing. His rejection of societal structures wasn't always accompanied by a coherent, alternative vision of how society should function. While he forcefully critiqued the hypocrisies of Athenian society, he rarely offered constructive solutions, preferring instead to highlight the absurdity of the prevailing norms. This ambiguity is part of his enduring appeal. He wasn't a utopian idealist, but a provocative critic, forcing us to confront the imperfections of our own lives and societies. His legacy is not without its critics. Some argue that his rejection of social engagement ultimately proved unproductive, neglecting the potential for meaningful social change through collaboration and engagement. Others find his rejection of conventional morality too extreme, ignoring the importance of social structures and established moral codes in maintaining a functioning society. His actions, viewed through the lens of modern day sensibilities, might even appear reckless, self destructive, or even, at times, insensitive. Yet these critiques only serve to highlight the complexities of his character and the multifaceted nature of his legacy. He was not a saint, nor a simple caricature of a rebellious hermit. He was a flawed, complex individual whose actions challenged and continue to challenge us to question our own lives and the world around us. Despite these critiques, the enduring impact of Diogenes is undeniable. His image, his philosophy, and his very life have inspired generations of thinkers, artists, and activists. He serves as a constant reminder that true freedom often requires a willingness to defy conventional wisdom, to challenge societal norms, and to live a life authentically, even if that path leads to social ostracism. His story is not merely a historical anecdote, it's a continuing conversation about the nature of a meaningful life, the importance of individual expression, and the enduring tension between personal ideals and societal expectations. His life, far from being a mere footnote in history, remains a powerful provocation, compelling us to consider the true meaning of freedom and the price we are willing to pay to live authentically. The barrel may have been a simple dwelling, but its symbolic resonance continues to shape our understanding of simplicity, rebellion, and the enduring pursuit of a life well lived. It serves as a powerful reminder that even the most unconventional lives can leave an enduring and profoundly impactful legacy. The echo of his defiant laughter, bouncing off the walls of that ancient pathos, continues to resonate across the centuries, inviting each new generation to engage in a dialogue with a man who chose to live outside the norms, forcing the world to confront its own contradictions in the process. The image of Diogenes, the cynic philosopher, lounging contentedly in his tub, a pythos to be precise, a large terracotta storage jar, is etched into the collective consciousness. It's a powerful visual shorthand for self sufficiency, a rejection of societal norms, and a life lived deliberately, if somewhat unconventionally, outside the gilded cage of Athenian society. But the romantic notion of a philosopher existing entirely outside the constraints of the material world, fueled solely by intellectual pursuits and a hearty disdain for wealth, requires a closer examination. The reality, as we delve into the surprisingly mundane aspects of his existence, reveals a more complex picture, a picture speckled with the unexpected challenges of even the most committed minimalist. For beneath the veneer of philosophical detachment lay a surprisingly relatable struggle, Diogenes' debt. While the historical record concerning the specifics of Diogenes' finances is, unsurprisingly, fragmented and open to interpretation, enough evidence exists to paint a picture of a man grappling with the practical realities of his chosen lifestyle. His vehement rejection of material possessions wasn't a pathway to financial freedom. Rather, it was a deliberate choice that, ironically, created a unique set of financial anxieties. One must remember that even the most ardent ascetic still needs to eat, to stay warm, at least somewhat, and to ensure a modicum of personal safety within a bustling, occasionally violent, ancient city like Athens. Consider the simple act of sustenance. Diogenes famously relied on the generosity of others, a practice that inherently carried with it an element of unpredictability. While his philosophy certainly attracted followers and admirers who may have readily shared their bounty, this wasn't a reliable income stream. The kindness of strangers is, after all, capricious and subject to the whims of individual benevolence. A bad harvest, a sudden downturn in the fortunes of his benefactors, or simply a change in their moods could drastically impact his access to food. Imagine the anxieties inherent in relying on the inconsistent generosity of others for one's very survival. A daily gamble played out against the backdrop of the bustling Athenian agora. Furthermore, while the barrel provided a roof of sorts, shelter in ancient Athens was far from free. Maintaining even a rudimentary dwelling, even one as basic as a pythos, required upkeep. The barrel itself wouldn't last forever. It was susceptible to the ravages of the elements, requiring occasional repairs, or eventually replacement. Were there occasional expenses associated with its maintenance? A patch of tar here, some additional supporting framework there. Even this seemingly minimal requirement represents a cost that needed to be met. The notion of him living completely rent-free is a fanciful idealization. Moreover, his unconventional lifestyle attracted attention, some admiring, some disdainful, and some downright hostile. While his philosophical pronouncements and public displays of defiance garnered a certain notoriety, this wasn't always advantageous. Being a walking, talking embodiment of philosophical rebellion came with its own set of risks. One can only speculate about the occasional need for minor repairs after, say, an overzealous heckler or an impulsive act of public protest resulted in a damaged barrel or even some more serious scuffles. He certainly wouldn't have had a legal recourse to claim damages for any such incidents. It's worth noting that historical accounts often focus on Diogenes' philosophical pronouncements and his flamboyant acts of defiance, giving less attention to the practicalities of daily life. This isn't necessarily due to a deliberate omission, but reflects the bias of those who wrote about him. Philosophers and historians were more interested in his intellectual contributions and his symbolic rejection of materialism than his struggles with day-to-day finances. The more sensational aspects of his life naturally made for better storytelling. However, it is precisely in these often overlooked aspects that we find a profound irony. A man who vehemently rejected societal norms and the pursuit of wealth found himself nonetheless entangled in the very constraints he sought to escape. His rejection of materialism, ironically, rendered him acutely vulnerable to its unpredictable whims. The lack of a stable income, the reliance on charity, and the unpredictable nature of his existence highlight the complexities of opting out of conventional society. It wasn't a simple matter of choosing a life of ease. It was a constant negotiation, a precarious balancing act between his philosophical ideals and the hard realities of survival. Perhaps the most compelling evidence for Diogenes's financial struggles comes from the indirect accounts within his biographer's writings and related philosophical discussions. While no precise records of his debts survive, the very fact that biographers felt the need to address his unconventional lifestyle suggests that it wasn't a universally understood or accepted choice. His reliance on the kindness of strangers isn't presented as a virtue in itself, but rather as a notable, almost paradoxical aspect of his personality. A man who publicly denounced wealth, yet was quietly dependent on the generosity of others for his basic needs. The accounts of his interactions with Alexander the Great further illustrate this point. The story goes that Alexander, impressed by Diogenes' reputation, sought him out, offering him anything he desired. Diogenes' famously curt reply, "Get out of my sunshine," is often cited as an epitome of cynic self-sufficiency. Yet, consider the underlying reality. If Diogenes had possessed sufficient resources, would he have felt the need to make such a statement, even a defiant one? His seemingly unapologetic rejection of the offer highlights not merely his philosophical stance, but also, perhaps subconsciously, his desperate need for uninterrupted access to the most basic of comforts, sunlight and a quiet space to reflect. Moreover, we can speculate about the potential for unseen debts, perhaps for minor repairs or small loans taken to cover unexpected emergencies. These wouldn't have been the grand debts of a merchant or a politician, but small, everyday financial burdens that could easily have been overwhelming for someone with no stable income. Such debts wouldn't necessarily have been recorded meticulously. A small loan between acquaintances would have been an informal matter, relying on trust and goodwill rather than formal contracts. Yet, these small, unrecorded transactions would have been a significant part of his everyday life. Diogenes's unexpected financial difficulties serve as a compelling reminder that even a carefully constructed life outside conventional society can bring its own challenges and anxieties. His experience wasn't one of simple, unencumbered freedom. It was a complex, often precarious journey navigating the tension between philosophical ideals and the harsh realities of survival. His story, viewed through this lens, becomes even more compelling, a testament not only to his philosophical commitment, but also to the surprisingly common human struggle of managing the delicate balance between our ideals and our material needs. The enduring legacy of Diogenes is not just in his rejection of materialism, but also in the unexpected difficulties that even the most committed minimalist can face. His life serves as a cautionary tale, a reminder that even the most radical choices don't necessarily negate the inherent realities of human existence. His story, far from diminishing his philosophical stature, only makes it more relatable, more human, and ultimately more profound. He wasn't just a philosopher, he was a human being, grappling with issues as mundane as managing a budget, however unconventional that budget might have been. And that, perhaps, is the most intriguing aspect of his enduring legacy. Chapter 2: Socrates' Last Days, a Trial of Wit and Wisdom. The Athenian courtroom, a stark, sun drenched space, buzzed with a nervous energy that day. Socrates, that gadfly of Athens, stood accused, not of some heinous crime, mind you, but of impiety and corrupting the youth. The charges, flimsy as they were, held the weight of the city's anxieties, a reflections of its internal contradictions and simmering political tensions. It was a perfect storm of accusations, fueled by resentment, envy, and a deep-seated fear of intellectual disruption. Plato, ever the meticulous observer, would later immortalize the event in his Apology, painting a vivid picture of a man facing death with a peculiar blend of defiance and bemused resignation. Socrates' defense wasn't a desperate plea for mercy. It was a masterclass in rhetorical self-defense, a performance that oscillated between sharp wit, philosophical reasoning, and a disarmingly honest self-assessment. He was, in a way, putting the Athenian legal system itself on trial, exposing its inherent inconsistencies and the shallowness of its justifications. He didn't shy away from confronting his accusers directly, picking apart their arguments with the surgical precision of a seasoned debater. He wasn't just defending himself, he was conducting a philosophical experiment, showcasing the power of reason and challenging the very foundations of Athenian justice. The irony, of course, is palpable. Socrates, the man who dedicated his life to the pursuit of truth and wisdom, was condemned for precisely those qualities. His relentless questioning, his unwavering commitment to exposing falsehoods, had earned him a reputation as a disruptive force, a man who challenged established authority and exposed the hypocrisy of those in power. This, it seems, was the ultimate crime in Athens, questioning the status quo. The very system designed to uphold justice had become a tool for silencing dissenting voices. Let's delve into the mechanics of Socrates' defense. He didn't begin with a cloying appeal to the jury's emotions. Instead, he employed a strategy of calculated ambiguity. He acknowledged the seriousness of the charges, granting his adversaries a semblance of legitimacy before proceeding to systematically dismantle their case. This strategic acknowledgement, far from weakening his position, enhanced his credibility. It demonstrated an intellectual honesty that his adversaries lacked. It was a tactical move, placing him in a position of intellectual authority from which he could more effectively dissect their claims. Consider his handling of the corrupting the youth accusation. He didn't simply deny the charge. He turned it into an opportunity to elucidate his philosophy. He argued that his only intention was to awaken their minds, to stimulate their critical thinking, and to encourage them to question the accepted wisdom. He posited that if he had indeed corrupted the youth, it was an unintentional byproduct of his efforts to inspire critical thought, a consequence he hardly deemed worthy of condemnation. The brilliance of this strategy lay in its indirectness, in its refusal to directly confront the accusation while skillfully neutralizing its impact. The humor, however, is far from subtle. Socrates injected moments of wry observation and self deprecating wit throughout his defense. He likened himself to a gadfly, an annoying but ultimately beneficial insect that constantly stings the horse, ensuring that it remains alert and active. This seemingly light-hearted metaphor conveyed a profound truth. His role in Athenian society was to provoke, to challenge, and to prevent intellectual stagnation. The humor served to disarm his adversaries and to win over the audience, softening the blow of his otherwise radical ideas. The political context further illuminates the absurdity of Socrates' trial. Athens at the time was a city grappling with its own identity and power struggles. The aftermath of the Peloponnesian War had left it vulnerable and deeply divided. The conservative faction, fearful of change and threatened by Socrates' intellectual challenge, saw him as a symbol of disruption. He became a scapegoat, a convenient target for the city's anxieties. The trial, therefore, wasn't simply a matter of justice. It was a reflection of the city's political tensions and the struggle between tradition and innovation. The Athenian legal system itself played a crucial role in shaping the events of the trial. The jury, composed of hundreds of ordinary citizens, was highly susceptible to manipulation and emotional appeals. The presentation of evidence relied heavily on rhetoric and persuasion rather than on strict adherence to facts. This provided Socrates with both an opportunity and a challenge. He could use the system's inherent flexibility to his advantage, but he also had to contend with its inherent biases and the susceptibility of the jury to popular opinion. The trial's outcome, then, shouldn't be seen as a failure of Socrates' defense, but as a testament to the power of prejudice and the fragility of justice. His skillful argumentation, his intellectual brilliance, his very existence as a beacon of critical thought proved too dangerous for a city struggling to reconcile its past with its future. His conviction was a tragic reflection of the limitations of a legal system ill-equipped to handle such a profound intellectual challenge. However, the apology's impact transcends the specific circumstances of Socrates' trial. It remains a timeless testament to the importance of intellectual courage and the enduring power of reason. Socrates' willingness to face death rather than compromise his principles serves as a constant reminder that truth and justice are often at odds with popular opinion and political expediency. His speech, even in failure, became a monument to the unwavering pursuit of intellectual freedom. The dramatic irony of his conviction, a man found guilty for seeking truth, is not just a historical curiosity, but a cautionary tale. Socrates, despite his fate, remains a beacon. He shows us that challenging conventional wisdom, questioning authority, and pursuing truth relentlessly, even in the face of overwhelming opposition, is not only a noble endeavor, but a necessary one. His legacy isn't defined by his death sentence, but by the enduring impact of his ideas, his courage, and his willingness to face the consequences of his convictions. The very act of challenging the Athenian court, even in failure, transformed his trial into an enduring philosophical battleground, one that continues to resonate centuries later. Socrates may have lost the battle, but his unwavering commitment to truth ensured that he won the war of ideas. His apology remains a powerful testament to the enduring spirit of intellectual resistance, a reminder that even the most powerful systems of control cannot entirely silence the pursuit of truth. The apology itself stands as an enduring masterpiece, not just for its philosophical insights, but also for its masterful use of rhetoric, its subtle humor, and its powerful demonstration of intellectual courage. It's a document that invites us to revisit the complexities of its narrative, to ponder the enduring questions it raises about justice, truth, and the human condition. It serves as a testament to Socrates' enduring legacy, not as a victim, but as a steadfast advocate for the pursuit of wisdom, even in the face of death. It is, in essence, a masterpiece of self defense, a defiant final act of a life dedicated to the uncompromising pursuit of truth. And that, in itself, is a legacy worth defending. The echoes of his defense reverberate through the ages, a challenge to every generation to question, to explore, and to never cease in the relentless pursuit of truth, even if the path leads to the ultimate sacrifice. The enduring power of Socrates lies not in avoiding confrontation, but in embracing it, transforming a trial into a philosophical testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. And this, perhaps, is the most fitting epitaph for a man who dared to challenge the very foundations of his society. The chill of the Athenian dawn seeped into the stone walls of the prison, a stark contrast to the warmth of the philosophical discussions that had filled the previous night. Socrates, his usual vitality somewhat dimmed, but his spirit unbroken, sat calmly amidst his friends, Plato among others, his youthful face etched with a mixture of grief and awe. The hemlock, the state-sanctioned end to his life, awaited. But even in these final hours, death seemed a mere footnote to the ongoing conversation. The air hung heavy with the unspoken, the weight of impending mortality pressing down on them like a physical force. Yet paradoxically, it was also charged with a vibrant energy, an almost defiant, intellectual ferment born from the acceptance of the inevitable. Socrates, ever the teacher, seemed to find a perverse delight in this final lesson, a masterclass in facing mortality, not with fear, but with quiet dignity and relentless intellectual curiosity. There was a peculiar serenity to the scene, a strange blend of sorrow and intellectual exhilaration, a testament to the unique nature of Socrates' spirit. This was not simply a man preparing to die. It was a philosopher orchestrating his own final seminar. The conversation, naturally, drifted towards the very essence of existence, fueled by the proximity of death. It was a philosophical free-for-all, with ideas tossed about with the same lively abandon that one might throw pebbles into a still pond. Plato, ever the diligent student, meticulously recorded these final words, transforming the somber occasion into a document that would shape the course of Western philosophy for millennia. The irony was not lost on those present. A man condemned for corrupting the youth was in his final moments, leaving an indelible mark on generations to come. One of the friends, perhaps emboldened by the solemnity of the moment, raised a point of grammar. Socrates, even in the throes of death, couldn't resist the opportunity to correct a misplaced participle. He patiently explained the nuanced difference, his voice, though weakened, still imbued with the same sharp intellect that had so unnerved his detractors. The scene, laden with the weight of impending mortality, was simultaneously punctuated with the lightest of touches, the quirky correction of grammatical minutiae amidst the immensity of impending death. It was a reminder that for Socrates, the pursuit of knowledge transcended even death itself. It was the ultimate testament to his unwavering commitment to intellectual rigor, an unwavering passion that outweighed even the fear of death. The hemlock, a simple, unassuming concoction, was brought forth. It was a potent symbol, not just of death, but of the arbitrary nature of justice and the fickle whims of political power. It was a grim reminder that even the pursuit of truth could lead to the most brutal of consequences. Yet, there was no tremor in Socrates' hand as he accepted the cup. He treated the act with the same methodical calm he had applied to his defense. There was a strange calmness in his demeanor, a mixture of acceptance, defiance, and perhaps even a hint of amusement at the absurdity of the situation. His final words, according to the accounts that have survived the passage of time, were not a lament or a desperate plea, but rather a philosophical reflection, a final examination of the human condition. He spoke of the soul's immortality, of the pursuit of virtue as the ultimate goal, and of the unwavering pursuit of knowledge as a sacred duty. They were words of profound wisdom, delivered not with a whimper, but with a firm, unwavering voice, as if to demonstrate that death was simply another chapter in the unending quest for truth. His death was not a defeat, but a testament to the strength of his conviction and his commitment to the continuous pursuit of intellectual rigor. The passing of Socrates was not merely a personal tragedy, but a societal one. Athens had lost not just a citizen, but a pivotal catalyst for intellectual debate and critical thinking. His death served as a stark reminder of the potential consequences of challenging authority, a warning that resonated deeply within the Athenian psyche. It was a tragic paradox. The man who had dedicated his life to sharpening the minds of others had been silenced by the very system he sought to improve. The silence that followed his death was not an absence of conversation, but the unsettling quiet that follows a sudden and unexpected storm. Plato, ever the keen observer, would later immortalize these events, not just as a historical account, but as a philosophical allegory, a profound meditation on life, death, and the unwavering pursuit of truth. The hemlock didn't silence Socrates. It merely transformed him into a symbol, an enduring testament to the human spirit's capacity to confront mortality with dignity, grace, and an unwavering commitment to the quest for understanding. His death served as a catalyst, an inspiration, and a warning all rolled into one. The legacy of Socrates' final moments extended beyond the walls of that Athenian prison, echoing through the corridors of time, a continuing call for intellectual courage and the unwavering pursuit of knowledge. The story of Socrates' death is not simply a recounting of historical events. It's a profound meditation on the nature of truth, the importance of intellectual freedom, and the human capacity to confront mortality with dignity and grace. It is a tale that has resonated through the ages, inspiring generations of thinkers to question, to challenge, and to pursue truth relentlessly, regardless of the consequences. Even the simple act of drinking the hemlock became a symbolic moment. It wasn't a defeat, but a calculated decision, a final act of defiance in the face of injustice. It was a demonstration of his unwavering principles, a testament to his belief in the power of reason and the importance of living a life dedicated to the pursuit of truth. Socrates' death, far from being an end, became a beginning. It marked the birth of a legend, a philosophical martyr whose legacy continues to inspire and challenge to this day. The echoes of his final words continue to reverberate through the centuries, a constant reminder of the courage it takes to live a life devoted to the pursuit of knowledge, even if that path leads to the ultimate sacrifice. The scene within the Athenian prison was more than just a tragic ending. It was the culmination of a life dedicated to the pursuit of wisdom. Socrates' final moments, far from being a period of despair, became a moment of profound intellectual and spiritual clarity. The very act of facing death with such composure and intellectual curiosity transformed the prison cell into a makeshift academy where the final lesson, a master class in the art of dying, was delivered with a mixture of wit, wisdom, and serene acceptance. This enduring story serves as a poignant reminder that the pursuit of truth, while sometimes arduous and fraught with peril, is a journey worth undertaking. Socrates' life and death serve as a beacon, illuminating the path toward a life of intellectual honesty, moral integrity, and unyielding commitment to the pursuit of knowledge, however challenging or perilous the path may be. The hemlock may have silenced his voice, but it could not diminish the impact of his life and ideas, which continue to resonate with readers and inspire generations of thinkers across time. His legacy, therefore, is not defined by his death, but by the enduring power of his ideas and the unyielding courage he displayed in the face of adversity. And in that lies a truly inspiring tale, one that transcends the boundaries of time and continues to resonate with audiences around the world, centuries after his death. The story of Socrates' final moments is not merely a historical account, but a timeless allegory of the human spirit's capacity for resilience, intellectual curiosity, and unwavering commitment to truth, even in the face of death. The accusations against Socrates, seemingly straightforward at first glance, unravel into a complex tapestry woven with threads of political maneuvering, personal grudges, and the inherent anxieties of a rapidly changing Athenian society. To understand the trial, one must move beyond the simplistic labels of corrupting the youth and impiety, delving into the specifics of the charges and the motivations of the accusers. These weren't mere accusations flung casually. They were carefully crafted indictments, reflecting a confluence of social, political, and personal tensions simmering beneath the surface of Athenian life. Meletus, a relatively obscure figure, even within the context of this pivotal trial, emerges as the primary accuser. His motivations remain a subject of debate amongst historians, with some suggesting a genuine, albeit misguided concern for Athenian morals, others pointing towards a calculated attempt to gain political favor or settle a personal score. His formal charges painted Socrates as a subversive influence, a man who undermined the established religious beliefs and moral fabric of Athens. The image presented was one of a cynical intellectual, deliberately corrupting the minds of Athenian youth, filling them with doubt and skepticism towards the gods and the city's traditional values. However, the lack of concrete evidence to support these claims raises questions about the sincerity of Meletus's accusations. Was he a true believer driven by moral outrage, a pawn in a larger political game, or a bitter rival seeking revenge? The historical record remains frustratingly ambiguous, allowing for multiple interpretations and fueling centuries of scholarly debate. The involvement of Anytus, a wealthy and influential politician, significantly elevates the stakes of the trial. Anytus's presence hints at a darker, more politically charged motivation behind the prosecution. Some historians speculate that Anytus viewed Socrates' critical thinking and relentless questioning as a threat to the existing political order. Socrates, with his unyielding pursuit of truth and his sharp tongue, had a habit of exposing hypocrisy and challenging the authority of those in power. Anytus, representing the established power structure, may have seen Socrates as a disruptive force, a potential catalyst for social unrest, and a threat to his own position. His participation lends credence to the theory that the trial was not merely a matter of moral outrage, but a calculated political maneuver to silence a troublesome intellectual. The precise nature of their interactions remains shrouded in the mists of time, leaving us to speculate on the extent of their animosity. Did they clash over policy? Did Socrates publicly embarrass Anytus? The fragments of evidence only serve to deepen the mystery, inviting speculation and reinforcing the complexities of the Athenian political landscape. Lycon, the third accuser, is often overshadowed by the more prominent figures of Meletus and Anytus, yet his role should not be underestimated. His presence bolsters the impression of a coordinated effort to bring down Socrates, suggesting a broader network of discontent and opposition. Lycon, a seasoned orator, likely provided the necessary rhetorical skills to shape the accusations into a compelling narrative, capable of swaying the jury. The strategic combination of Meletus's formal charges, Anytus's political clout, and Lycon's oratorical prowess reveals a well-orchestrated campaign, leaving little room for doubt that Socrates' trial was far from a spontaneous outburst of civic virtue. The accusations themselves, however, lack the specificity one might expect from a serious legal proceeding. The charge of corrupting the youth is remarkably vague, a broad stroke that could encompass almost any form of intellectual dissent or unconventional pedagogy. Similarly, the charge of impiety is equally ambiguous, reflecting the evolving and often contradictory nature of religious beliefs in ancient Athens. Socrates' defense, which we will explore in detail later, directly addresses these ambiguities, highlighting the lack of concrete evidence and the inherent contradictions within the accusations. He adeptly uses the vagueness of the charges to expose the flaws in the prosecution's case, turning their own accusations against them. The historical context of Socrates' trial is crucial to understanding the motivations of his accusers. Athens, in the aftermath of the Peloponnesian War, was a city grappling with political instability, economic hardship, and a deep sense of societal disillusionment. The traditional values and beliefs that had once held Athenian society together were being challenged by new ideas and intellectual currents. Socrates, with his relentless questioning and his unconventional methods, became a convenient scapegoat for the anxieties and uncertainties of the time. His intellectual rigor, while admirable, was also perceived by some as a disruptive force, a threat to the established order. His relentless questioning, while designed to uncover truth, could be misinterpreted as undermining authority and fostering dissent. Moreover, the Athenian legal system, a form of direct democracy, was inherently susceptible to manipulation by influential individuals. The jury, composed of ordinary citizens, could be swayed by powerful rhetoric and political pressure. Socrates' accusers, wielding their influence and resources, used the system to their advantage, crafting a narrative that resonated with the anxieties and prejudices of the Athenian populace. The trial of Socrates was not just a legal proceeding, it was a clash of ideologies, a reflection of the deeper fault lines within Athenian society. It was a stark reminder of how easily accusations, even unfounded ones, can be weaponized, and how political expediency can override justice. The accusations against him, though lacking in substance, successfully tapped into the prevailing anxieties of the time, turning a philosopher into a convenient scapegoat for the collective insecurities of a city in crisis. This understanding of the historical, social, and political backdrop allows us to see the trial not merely as an isolated incident, but as a microcosm of the wider political and societal dynamics at play in ancient Athens. It highlights the complex interplay of personal ambitions, political maneuvering, and social anxieties that often shape historical events, and casts a long shadow over our understanding of justice, truth, and the fragility of freedom of thought. The very vagueness of the charges and the lack of concrete evidence underscores the inherent dangers of allowing political expediency to dictate legal outcomes. The legacy of Socrates' trial extends far beyond his own condemnation. It serves as a cautionary tale, a potent reminder of the dangers of silencing dissenting voices, particularly in times of social and political upheaval. The hemlock's bitter sting silenced Socrates, but it could not silence the reverberations of his thought. His death, far from marking an end, ignited a philosophical wildfire that would blaze across centuries. The impact on his students, particularly Plato and Xenophon, was profound and lasting, shaping the course of Western philosophy in ways that continue to resonate today. Their accounts, though differing in style and emphasis, serve as our primary windows into the mind of Socrates and the enduring legacy of his teachings. Plato, arguably Socrates' most famous student, carried the torch of Socratic philosophy with unwavering dedication. His dialogues, a masterclass in philosophical inquiry and dramatic storytelling, became the cornerstone of Platonic thought, yet they are also invaluable sources for understanding Socrates himself. Plato, a gifted writer and astute observer, didn't merely record Socrates' pronouncements, he crafted them into dramatic narratives, showcasing Socrates' brilliance in action, engaging in lively debates with a diverse range of interlocutors. These dialogues, meticulously constructed and infused with dramatic irony and subtle wit, reveal Socrates' method of relentless questioning, his pursuit of essential definitions, and his profound insights into ethics, politics, and the nature of reality. While Plato's dialogues undoubtedly filtered Socrates' teachings through his own lens, offering a uniquely Platonic interpretation, their influence is undeniable. The Academy, which Plato founded after Socrates' death, became the epicenter of philosophical inquiry in ancient Greece. This institution, a testament to Socrates' legacy, attracted scholars from across the Hellenic world, fostering generations of philosophers who built upon and challenged Socratic ideas. The Academy's rigorous curriculum focused on mathematics, logic, and ethics reflects the intellectual rigor and intellectual curiosity that Socrates championed. It served not only as a center for learning, but as a living embodiment of Socrates' commitment to intellectual exploration and the relentless pursuit of truth. The Academy's enduring influence is immeasurable, shaping the intellectual landscape for centuries. Indeed, its intellectual descendants can be traced through the Neoplatonists, the Renaissance humanists, and even into contemporary philosophical debates. In contrast to Plato's highly stylized dialogues, Xenophon, another prominent student of Socrates, offered a more straightforward account of his teacher's life and teachings. Xenophon's writings, particularly Memorabilia and Apology, provide a valuable counterpoint to Plato's more romanticized portrayal. While lacking the dramatic flair of Plato's dialogues, Xenophon's account offers a valuable glimpse into the everyday life of Socrates, his interactions with ordinary citizens, and his practical approach to ethical living. Xenophon's descriptions of Socrates' personal life, his family relationships, and his interactions with various Athenians paint a portrait of a man less ethereal and more grounded than the Socrates presented by Plato. This less idealized portrayal serves as a vital corrective to the almost mythical figure often conjured in our imaginations. The differences between Plato's and Xenophon's accounts highlight the inherent challenges in reconstructing the past, particularly when dealing with figures as complex and influential as Socrates. Both writers, profoundly influenced by their teacher, inevitably shaped their narratives according to their own philosophical perspectives and writing styles. Plato, the visionary idealist, saw Socrates as a figure of almost divine proportions, a beacon illuminating the path to ultimate truth. Xenophon, the pragmatic historian, focused on the practical application of Socratic wisdom in daily life. The contrasts, however, rather than diminishing the value of their works, enrich our understanding of Socrates, offering multiple facets of a truly multifaceted personality. The contrasting accounts also highlight the difficulties in separating the historical Socrates from the philosophical figure he became in the hands of his disciples. The Socrates we know is partially a product of historical record, partially a creation of his students. This dynamic interaction between historical event and subsequent interpretation underscores the inherently subjective nature of historical understanding. It's a constant interplay of fact and interpretation, where the historian's own biases and perspectives inevitably shape their narrative. Beyond Plato and Xenophon, numerous other individuals were profoundly shaped by their contact with Socrates. Although their writings may not be as extensively preserved, their contributions to the dissemination of Socratic thought cannot be overlooked. Those less known students, often mentioned in passing in the works of Plato and Xenophon, carried Socrates' philosophical legacy into various corners of Athenian society, contributing to the wider acceptance and eventual institutionalization of his teachings. They served as living testimonials to the transformative power of Socratic engagement. Their influence, while less directly documented, certainly played a role in the dissemination of Socratic ideas and laid the groundwork for future generations of philosophers. The spread of Socratic philosophy was not a mere academic exercise. It was deeply intertwined with the social and political climate of ancient Athens. Socrates' emphasis on critical thinking, his questioning of authority, and his commitment to ethical living directly challenged the status quo. His students, inspired by their teacher's unwavering integrity and intellectual courage, became agents of change, promoting the critical examination of beliefs and societal norms. Consider the impact of Socrates' legacy on the political landscape. The questioning of power, a fundamental aspect of Socratic thought, would later inspire movements for democracy and social justice. The emphasis on reasoned argumentation and the pursuit of truth, inherent to Socrates' method, laid the foundation for critical thinking in Western intellectual tradition. These principles, woven into the fabric of democratic societies, underscore the continuing relevance of Socratic thought in the modern world. Even the economic implications of Socratic philosophy are worth considering, if only ironically. While Socrates himself was known for his simple lifestyle and apparent lack of material wealth, his teachings indirectly contributed to the development of a robust intellectual culture that in later periods fostered economic growth and innovation. The emphasis on education and intellectual pursuit, championed by Socrates and his students, ultimately contributed to the progress of civilizations. The death of Socrates did not extinguish the flame of his philosophy. It fueled its spread. His legacy, passed on through his students and their writings, lives on not only in the halls of academia, but also in the minds of those who continue to grapple with the timeless questions he posed. The relentless questioning, the pursuit of truth, the commitment to ethical living. These are hallmarks of the Socratic legacy, a legacy that transcends time and continues to inspire critical thought and intellectual exploration across generations. The echo of Socrates' voice, though muffled by the passage of centuries, still resonates powerfully, a testament to the enduring strength of his ideas and the profound impact of his life, even in death. The very act of questioning, the essence of the Socratic method, remains a potent tool for challenging assumptions and pursuing a more just and enlightened world. It is a legacy, in a word, worthy of the hemlock. The hemlock may have silenced Socrates' voice, but it couldn't silence the echoes of his relentless questioning. His death, a dramatic climax in the life of a seemingly ordinary Athenian, became the catalyst for a philosophical revolution that continues to shape our world. The trial, the condemnation, and the final act of drinking the hemlock were not the end of Socrates. They were the beginning of his legend, a legend amplified and refracted through the lens of his students and subsequent generations of thinkers. The immediate impact was felt most profoundly amongst his disciples. Plato, of course, stands out, his dialogues forming the bedrock of Western philosophical thought. Yet, even within Plato's meticulously crafted narratives, we see the inherent difficulties in capturing the essence of Socrates. Plato, a master storyteller, a poet of ideas, presented Socrates not as a historical figure in a specific time and place, but as a timeless archetype, a philosophical ideal. This Socrates, while undeniably based on the real man, is filtered through Plato's philosophical lens, a Socrates sculpted in the crucible of Plato's own intellectual furnace. The irony, of course, is not lost on the astute observer. Socrates, who relentlessly questioned the received wisdom of his contemporaries, himself becomes a subject of interpretation, his very being refracted through the subjective lens of his brilliant pupil. His method, his questions, his relentless pursuit of truth all became the subject of artistic reimagining, a creative reconstruction that both illuminates and obscures the original. Consider, for instance, the famous allegory of the cave in Plato's Republic. While not explicitly attributed to Socrates, the allegory's essence, the arduous journey from ignorance to enlightenment, embodies the spirit of Socrates' mission. It reflects the Socratic process of relentless questioning, the stripping away of illusion to reveal the underlying truth. Yet, the allegory is undeniably Platonic in its structure and its underlying philosophical assumptions, suggesting a subtle, perhaps even unconscious, shaping of Socrates' legacy. Xenophon, another prominent student, provides a contrasting perspective. His Memorabilia, a more straightforward account of Socrates' life and teachings, offers a valuable corrective to Plato's idealized portrayal. Xenophon's Socrates is less the ethereal philosopher king and more a down to earth Athenian citizen, engaging in everyday conversations and demonstrating the practical application of ethical principles. He reveals a Socrates concerned with the mundane, the everyday, the practical challenges of living a virtuous life within the constraints of Athenian society. This more earthly, less heroic rendition of Socrates serves as a crucial counterpoint to the more romanticized figure presented by Plato, reminding us that even philosophical giants grapple with the same mundane realities as the rest of us. The discrepancy between these accounts, however, is not a flaw in our understanding of Socrates, but rather a reflection of the very nature of historical interpretation. History, after all, is not a monolithic entity, a single, unalterable truth. It is a complex tapestry woven from diverse perspectives, a subjective rendering of events interpreted through the lens of individual biases and perspectives. The multifaceted nature of Socrates' legacy is not a problem to be solved, but a rich field to be explored. The influence of Socrates extended far beyond his immediate circle. His teachings, meticulously preserved and disseminated by his students, penetrated the intellectual life of ancient Greece and beyond. The Academy, founded by Plato, became the crucible of philosophical inquiry for centuries, a testament to the power and enduring relevance of Socratic thought. The Academy's curriculum, focusing on logic, mathematics, and ethics, reflected Socrates' emphasis on reasoned argumentation and the pursuit of knowledge. It was a living monument to the enduring power of the Socratic method, a testament to the lasting impact of a man who died for the pursuit of truth. The impact of Socrates' legacy extends far beyond the hallowed halls of the academy. The seeds of his philosophy, sown in the fertile soil of ancient Athenian society, sprouted into a rich harvest of intellectual and social change. His relentless questioning of authority and his emphasis on ethical living resonated with generations of thinkers, shaping their understanding of justice, morality, and the very nature of reality. Socrates' influence can be traced through the evolution of political thought, the development of ethical frameworks, and the shaping of educational systems across millennia. His emphasis on critical thinking and reasoned argumentation, the very essence of the Socratic method, remains a cornerstone of intellectual discourse today. The seemingly simple act of questioning assumptions, challenging prevailing beliefs, and demanding rigorous justification for claims continues to be a vital tool for navigating the complexities of the modern world. In a world often characterized by misinformation and emotional appeals, the Socratic method serves as a powerful antidote, a potent tool for discerning truth from falsehood. Consider the parallels between the challenges Socrates faced and the controversies that arise in contemporary society. Socrates, through his questioning of societal norms and his relentless pursuit of truth, challenged the established order, much like many modern day voices who challenge orthodoxy and speak truth to power. His trial, A Clash of Ideologies, resonates with modern debates surrounding free speech, intellectual freedom, and the limits of authority. The very act of questioning authority, of challenging established power structures, remains a source of both inspiration and controversy, mirroring the tensions that existed during Socrates' own time. The enduring legacy of Socrates is not merely an academic curiosity, it's a living testament to the power of ideas and the transformative potential of critical engagement. His life and death serve as a poignant reminder of the price one might pay for upholding truth and integrity. A reminder that even in the face of adversity, the pursuit of knowledge and the relentless questioning of assumptions remain essential for the advancement of society. The legacy of Socrates, therefore, is not simply a chapter in the history of philosophy. It's an ongoing conversation, a continuing dialogue that resonates across centuries, challenging us to engage with the timeless questions he posed and to continue the pursuit of truth and wisdom. The hemlock silenced his voice, but it couldn't silence his ideas. They continue to resonate, challenging us to question, to explore, and to strive for a world illuminated by reason and informed by justice. The legacy lives on, a testament to the enduring power of a single, inquisitive mind. Chapter 3: Plato's Academy. From ivory tower to intellectual hotspot. Leaving behind the tumultuous life and controversial death of Socrates, we now turn our gaze to his most celebrated pupil, Plato. While Socrates' legacy was largely preserved through the interpretive lens of his students, Plato's contribution is monumental, not only for his preservation of Socratic thought, but for his own towering philosophical achievements. Central to his work is the concept of the ideal state, a blueprint for a utopian society laid out in his magnum opus, the Republic. This vision, though seemingly distant from the often chaotic reality of ancient Athens, offers fascinating insights into Plato's philosophical mind and his anxieties about the state of his society. Imagine, if you will, a city meticulously designed, its very fabric woven from the threads of justice, wisdom, and courage. This is the city Plato envisions, a city not governed by the whims of democracy, nor the iron fist of tyranny, but by philosopher kings, individuals who possess both intellectual prowess and a deep understanding of justice. These weren't mere politicians scrambling for power. These were individuals who had climbed the arduous mountain of philosophical contemplation, ascending beyond the shadows of ignorance to perceive the true form of the good. Their reign was not one of domination, but of benevolent guidance, steering the ship of state towards the harmonious shores of a just society. The structure of this ideal city is as intricate as a finely crafted clockwork mechanism, each cog and wheel perfectly synchronized. At its base lie the producers, the farmers, the artisans, the builders, the backbone of the society, the hands that create the material necessities of life. Their virtues are simplicity and temperance, a focus on their craft and a disciplined life, free from the distractions of wealth or power. This focus on practical skills is vital, ensuring the city is not merely a philosophical abstraction, but a functional, thriving society. Above the producers are the guardians, a warrior class trained from a young age in both physical prowess and intellectual discipline. Plato's vision doesn't present a brutish military force, but rather a highly educated and disciplined body, charged with protecting the city from both external threats and internal discord. Their virtues are courage and spirit, a willingness to defend the city and its ideals, tempered with an understanding of justice and order. Interestingly, Plato emphasizes the importance of their education, not only in military tactics, but also in philosophy and music, aiming to cultivate not just warriors, but guardians who understand the principles they defend. At the pinnacle of the societal pyramid reside the philosopher kings, individuals who have ascended to the highest level of intellectual and moral development. They possess the wisdom to rule justly and the virtue to act with compassion. Their education is the most rigorous, a lifelong pursuit of knowledge, leading them to grasp the true form of the good, an ultimate reality that transcends the imperfections of the physical world. Plato, influenced by his master's commitment to reason, believed that only those who had rigorously examined the principles of justice could apply them justly. The philosopher kings are not aloof rulers, disconnected from the daily lives of their citizens. Instead, they are the shepherds of the state, guiding its progress toward the good. Their rule is not based on coercion or fear, but on the unwavering pursuit of justice and the common good. It's a rule of wisdom, not power, guided by the principles of reason and ethical conduct. However, this vision of an ideal state isn't just a theoretical exercise. Plato crafts a compelling narrative, replete with vivid imagery and dialogues, bringing the ideal city to life. He contrasts his vision with the inherent flaws of existing democratic systems. He criticizes Athenian democracy not for its ideals, but for the practical challenges in its application. He points to the inherent instability of a system where decisions are influenced by the fickle nature of public opinion, subject to manipulation, and lacking the steady hand of reasoned judgment. The realities of Athenian society often fell short of Plato's ideals. The political landscape was frequently characterized by infighting, power struggles, and the manipulation of the masses. The gap between the rich and the poor was vast, leading to social unrest and instability. Justice, far from being a guiding principle, was often influenced by wealth and influence, bending to the whims of power. Plato's ideal city was thus not merely an academic exercise, but a response to the observable shortcomings of his own society, a yearning for a more just and harmonious existence. One of the key components of Plato's ideal state is the concept of specialization. Just as a body functions best when each part performs its specific role, so too does a society. Plato advocates for individuals to focus on the tasks they are best suited for based on their natural aptitudes and talents. This division of labor, he argues, enhances efficiency and productivity, leading to a more prosperous and harmonious society. He extends this concept of specialization to the very structure of the city, creating a hierarchical system with each class fulfilling its designated function. The producers provide the material necessities, the guardians ensure security, and the philosopher kings provide wise leadership. This clear division of roles, Plato believed, minimizes conflict and maximizes social cohesion. The efficiency of this specialized society mirrors the efficiency of a perfectly functioning human body. The implications, however, were vast, influencing social and political thinking for centuries. Moreover, Plato's vision addresses the problem of justice, a central theme in his philosophical inquiries. Justice, in Plato's view, is not merely the absence of wrongdoing, but a state of harmonious balance within the individual and the state. In the ideal city, each individual performs their designated role, contributing to the overall well-being of the community. This harmony, this balanced contribution, is the essence of justice. The concept of justice extends beyond mere social organization. It penetrates the very soul of the individual. Plato posits a tripartite soul, reason, spirit, and appetite, mirroring the three classes of the city. Just as the city functions harmoniously when each class fulfills its role, the individual achieves justice when reason governs the spirit and the appetite, bringing them into balance. This internal harmony is the foundation for a virtuous life and a just society. However, Plato's idealized vision has not been without its critics. The rigid social hierarchy has been seen as potentially oppressive, stifling individual freedom and creativity. The notion of philosopher kings, while appealing in its theoretical elegance, raises concerns about the potential for elitism and the abuse of power. The very possibility of perfectly identifying and selecting individuals for these roles based on inherent abilities remains a challenge. Plato's vision, while aspirational, is clearly a product of its time, reflecting the social and political structures of ancient Greece. Despite these criticisms, Plato's Republic remains a cornerstone of political philosophy, a testament to his enduring influence. His vision of an ideal state, however utopian, continues to provoke debate and inspire reflection on the nature of justice, the organization of society, and the quest for the good. The Republic is not a mere historical artifact. It's a living document, its ideas constantly re-examined and reinterpreted in the light of contemporary challenges and aspirations. Plato's ideal state, while perhaps never fully realized, remains a potent symbol of humanity's enduring quest for a more just and harmonious world. It reminds us that the pursuit of the ideal, however elusive, is a journey worth undertaking. It is a reminder that even amidst the complexities and contradictions of human life, the quest for a better world is a fundamentally human endeavor. The imperfections of reality are no barrier to imagining, crafting, and striving towards a better future. This utopian ideal, this perfect city, serves as a compass guiding us toward a more just and equitable society, even if the path is fraught with difficulties and the destination remains elusive. The legacy of Plato's ideal state, like that of Socrates, continues to resonate through history, prompting critical reflection and inspiring hope for a better future. The academy itself, nestled on the outskirts of Athens, was far from the bustling marketplace or the grand political assemblies. It was a haven of quiet contemplation, a place where the clamor of daily life faded into a gentle murmur, replaced by the rustle of scrolls and the murmur of philosophical debate. Imagine a sun-drenched courtyard, shaded by olive trees, where students, clad in simple tunics, engaged in animated discussions, their voices rising and falling like the waves on a nearby shore. This was the setting for Plato's ambitious project, to shape the minds of future leaders, not through rote memorization or rigid dogma, but through a rigorous engagement with reason and the pursuit of truth. Plato's pedagogical approach was as innovative as his philosophy. He shunned the rigid, authoritarian methods prevalent in other schools. He didn't dictate answers, he ignited the spark of inquiry. His preferred method was the Socratic dialogue, a technique he had learned from his master. He would present a problem, a question, a paradox, and then guide his students through a series of probing questions, challenging their assumptions, exposing inconsistencies, and leading them to discover truth for themselves. It wasn't a lecture hall, but a collaborative intellectual wrestling match where truth emerged from the clash of ideas. Consider, for instance, the concept of justice. Plato wouldn't simply define justice and expect his students to accept it. Instead, he would lead them through a series of dialogues, examining different perspectives, challenging prevailing notions, and ultimately leading them to a deeper, more nuanced understanding of this fundamental concept. He would explore various forms of government, weighing their strengths and weaknesses, guiding his students towards an appreciation for the ideal form, that which he outlined in The Republic. These dialogues weren't just abstract intellectual exercises. They were designed to cultivate critical thinking, sharpen their reasoning skills, and foster intellectual humility, a vital virtue in any aspiring leader. The curriculum wasn't confined to political philosophy. It encompassed a vast range of subjects designed to cultivate well-rounded individuals, capable not only of intellectual rigor, but also of practical wisdom. Mathematics, particularly geometry, held a prominent place in the curriculum. Plato famously inscribed above the academy's entrance, "Let no one ignorant of geometry enter here." This wasn't mere elitism. It reflected a profound belief in the power of mathematics to train the mind, to cultivate logical thinking and the ability to grasp abstract concepts. Geometry, with its emphasis on precise reasoning and deductive logic, was seen as essential preparation for philosophical inquiry. Students were expected to master geometrical proofs, not simply for the sake of the proofs themselves, but as a discipline of the mind. The rigorous process of proving theorems helped to develop their intellectual discipline. It trained them to identify assumptions, construct arguments, and evaluate evidence, crucial skills for leaders in any field. Astronomy was another vital component of the curriculum. The celestial movements, the regular cycles of the stars and planets, served as a model of order and harmony. Through the study of astronomy, students were encouraged to develop a sense of cosmic order, to appreciate the underlying principles of mathematical and physical regularity governing the universe. This study was more than a mere astronomical education. It fostered a sense of wonder and a respect for the underlying laws of the cosmos. Plato's belief in an ordered universe influenced his perspective on the ideal state, reflecting the belief that harmony and balance must be maintained, just like the movements of the celestial bodies. It provided a holistic vision, a perspective that transcends the immediate political and social concerns. The emphasis on astronomy was not to make astronomers, but to train minds. Music, too, held a significant place in the Academy's curriculum. Music, for Plato, wasn't simply entertainment, it was a powerful tool for moral education. He believed that certain musical modes could cultivate virtuous character, while others could lead to moral corruption. The Academy's curriculum included a systematic study of musical theory, exploring the relationship between musical forms and human emotions. Students were taught to appreciate the aesthetic qualities of music, to understand its emotional impact, and to recognize its potential for shaping character. This holistic approach ensured that the curriculum addressed not only the intellect, but also the soul. It created well-rounded citizens capable of both intellectual rigor and emotional intelligence. The Academy's curriculum was not merely theoretical. It was designed to prepare students for leadership roles in Athenian society. Rhetoric, the art of persuasive speaking, was a crucial component of the training. Students were taught the skills of effective communication, how to structure arguments, how to engage their audience, and how to persuade others. This wasn't simply about manipulation. It was about empowering them to articulate their views effectively and to influence societal discourse. The ability to communicate their vision was vital for any future leader, whether in politics, the arts, or any other field. Plato's vision of leadership involved the ability to articulate clearly, to persuade rationally, and to build consensus. The daily life of a student at the academy was far from a leisurely pursuit. It was a demanding regimen of intellectual exertion, rigorous study, and intense philosophical debate. Days were filled with lectures, discussions, and individual study. Students were expected to engage deeply with the texts of Plato and other philosophers, to engage in rigorous self-examination, and to develop their own philosophical perspectives. The education was not passive. It demanded active participation and intellectual engagement. It wasn't about receiving information. It was about actively building knowledge. The academy was more than just a school. It was a vibrant intellectual community. Plato himself was a highly respected and revered teacher. He welcomed students from various backgrounds and social strata, creating a diverse and intellectually stimulating environment. The atmosphere was one of mutual respect and intellectual collaboration, fostering a dynamic interchange of ideas. It was a crucible where minds were tested and refined, where individuals were challenged and encouraged to reach their full potential. The daily routines were not merely structured learning, they were designed to encourage personal growth, intellectual curiosity, and a spirit of cooperation. Beyond the formal curriculum, the Academy fostered a unique intellectual environment. The very act of living and studying alongside fellow students and renowned teachers created a context for constant learning. Informal discussions were frequent, sparking spontaneous debates that touched upon various philosophical ideas, often extending beyond scheduled learning hours. The lively interactions, even in casual settings, provided invaluable opportunities for broadening perspectives and critical analysis. In essence, the Academy's curriculum represented a comprehensive and holistic approach to education designed to foster not only intellectual brilliance, but also moral virtue and leadership capability. It was a testament to Plato's belief that philosophy wasn't merely an abstract pursuit, but a vital tool for shaping individuals and improving society. The rigorous curriculum, the vibrant intellectual community, and the demanding lifestyle all contributed to the creation of leaders who were not only intellectually gifted, but also ethically sound and practically wise. The Academy's legacy continues to resonate through history, influencing educational philosophies and shaping our understanding of leadership and learning, echoing in the halls of modern universities and inspiring critical thinkers even today. The Academy stands not just as a monument to an influential philosopher, but as a model of educational excellence, striving for an ideal of intellectual and moral development that continues to challenge us to this day. The Academy wasn't just a place of serene contemplation, it was a pressure cooker of intellectual ferment. While the olive trees offered a picturesque backdrop, the air often crackled with the energy of spirited debate, sometimes erupting into full-blown philosophical brawls. Think of it less as a cloistered ivory tower and more as a bustling agora of ideas, where the clash of intellects was as commonplace as the Athenian sun. Plato, despite his reputation for serene wisdom, wasn't immune to the occasional intellectual sparring match. His own dialogues, after all, are dramatic representations of this very process, filled with carefully crafted arguments and counter-arguments. He fostered this environment, believing that truth emerged not from unquestioning acceptance, but from rigorous scrutiny and lively opposition. The Academy was a training ground not just for philosophers, but for intellectual gladiators, ready to defend their positions with wit, logic, and a healthy dose of rhetorical flourishes. One could almost imagine the scene. A group of students huddled around a sand-covered table, meticulously constructing geometrical proofs, their brows furrowed in concentration. A sudden outburst from one, a challenge to a fellow student's theorem, ignites a flurry of counterpoints, each student passionately defending their own interpretation of Euclid. The quiet murmur of intellectual engagement suddenly explodes into a vibrant exchange, a flurry of gestures and carefully chosen words. Plato, observing from a shaded corner, a faint smile playing on his lips, would likely interject only to guide the discussion, posing a question here, offering a suggestion there, always nudging them toward a deeper understanding, never dictating a conclusion. The rivalries weren't always friendly. Personal ambition, The thirst for recognition and the inherent human desire to be right fueled intense competitions. Consider the potential clash between a student staunchly defending Plato's theory of forms and another advocating for a more materialistic view of reality. The debate wouldn't just be about abstract concepts, it would be a personal battle for intellectual dominance, a contest of wits and philosophical prowess. These intellectual skirmishes weren't confined to the formal classroom setting. The academy's courtyards, its shaded walkways, even the dining hall served as informal debating chambers. Imagine a lunchtime conversation about the ideal state, casually beginning with a comment on the quality of the olives, rapidly escalating into a full blown argument on the merits of democracy versus aristocracy. The air would be thick with the scent of olives and the aroma of intellectual combat. The competitiveness within the academy wasn't purely destructive, it served as a powerful catalyst for intellectual growth. The relentless exchange of ideas, the constant need to defend one's position, sharpened their minds and honed their critical thinking skills. The students were constantly being challenged, forced to articulate their views clearly and precisely, and to confront opposing perspectives with reasoned arguments. It was a rigorous intellectual workout designed to cultivate intellectual resilience and a deep understanding of the issues at hand. The stakes were high. The academy was a stepping stone to influence, prestige, and possibly even political power. For those aspiring to be advisors to rulers or to shape public opinion, the ability to outwit opponents in philosophical debate was a crucial skill. Success in the academy's intellectual arena could pave the way for a successful career in public life, adding a layer of intense personal motivation to the already intellectually charged atmosphere. The vibrant intellectual life of the academy wasn't devoid of humor. We can imagine witty retorts, clever paradoxes, and philosophical jokes punctuating the serious discussions. The seriousness of the subject matter didn't preclude a playful approach. The intellectual sparring matches weren't devoid of humor. Imagine the subtle jabs, the playful ripostes, the ironic undercurrents in the debates, showcasing not only the rigor of their arguments, but also the intellectual agility and playful competitiveness that underpinned the exchanges. The legacy of these intellectual battles extends far beyond the walls of Plato's academy. The spirit of rigorous debate and the willingness to challenge prevailing assumptions remain hallmarks of academic inquiry. The intellectual climate fostered within those sun-drenched courtyards laid the groundwork for centuries of philosophical inquiry, shaping the very nature of intellectual discourse and the pursuit of knowledge. Furthermore, the academy served as a microcosm of the broader Athenian intellectual landscape. The same clashes of ideas and personalities that characterized life within its walls were mirrored in the wider Athenian society. Political debates, artistic controversies, and literary disputes were all part of the fabric of Athenian life, reflecting a society that valued open discourse and the free exchange of ideas. The academy, in its own way, contributed to this vibrant intellectual ecosystem, providing a training ground for the next generation of thinkers, artists, and statesmen. The intellectual energy within the academy wasn't simply a matter of theoretical arguments. It was deeply connected to the practical realities of Athenian life. The debates on justice, for instance, weren't just abstract exercises. They directly addressed the challenges of governance and social order in a complex and dynamic city state. Similarly, discussions on rhetoric weren't merely about eloquence. They touched upon the very foundations of political persuasion and the power of language to shape public opinion. The curriculum, despite its focus on abstract thought, was deeply intertwined with the political and social fabric of Athens. One can imagine students from diverse backgrounds, aristocrats rubbing shoulders with commoners, each bringing their own unique perspective and experiences to the debates. This diversity, far from being a source of conflict, was a source of intellectual richness. The clash of viewpoints, rooted in differing social and economic experiences, fueled a more robust and nuanced philosophical inquiry. The methods employed in these debates were as fascinating as the arguments themselves. The Socratic method, with its emphasis on probing questions and the relentless pursuit of clarity, became a hallmark of the academy. Students learned to challenge assumptions, expose contradictions, and carefully construct their arguments, always striving for a higher level of understanding. The process itself was just as important as the conclusions reached. Beyond the formal debates, there were undoubtedly informal gatherings, smaller groups of students exchanging ideas over wine and discussing topics ranging from metaphysics to mathematics. The bonds forged in these interactions, the friendships and rivalries built through years of shared intellectual endeavor, likely shaped the character and the trajectory of each student's life. The academy wasn't simply a school, it was a community, a vibrant ecosystem of intellects, constantly striving to expand the boundaries of human knowledge. And while the pursuit of truth was paramount, it was a pursuit that was punctuated by passionate debates, fierce rivalries, and that even the occasional outbreak of intellectual laughter. It was a dynamic, sometimes chaotic, but ultimately enriching environment, perfectly suited to the fostering of brilliant, inquisitive minds. The legacy of that vibrant intellectual life continues to resonate, inspiring scholars and students alike to engage in rigorous debate and to relentlessly pursue the ever elusive truth, just as those students did in the sun drenched courtyards of Plato's Academy. The spirit of intellectual combat, born in those ancient Athenian groves, lives on, a testament to the enduring power of challenging assumptions and engaging in the never ending quest for knowledge and understanding. The Academy's influence wasn't confined to the sun drenched Athenian landscape. It cast a long shadow across centuries and continents, shaping the very fabric of Western thought. Its legacy is not merely a matter of historical record, it's a living presence in the way we approach philosophy, politics, and education. Imagine a ripple effect, starting from that small grove in Athens, spreading outwards, touching the shores of Alexandria, Rome, and beyond, eventually reaching the lecture halls of modern universities. The dissemination of Platonism wasn't a neat, orderly process. It was a messy, often chaotic affair, shaped by the vagaries of history and the personalities of those who championed its ideals. Consider the role of Plato's own students, some of whom, like Aristotle, went on to establish their own schools of thought, diverging from Plato's teachings while still bearing the unmistakable imprint of his influence. Aristotle, for instance, while breaking with Plato's theory of forms, retained a profound respect for his teacher's methodology and maintained a deep engagement with his metaphysics, even if his conclusions differed significantly. The Hellenistic period saw the rise of various schools of philosophy, each drawing inspiration from Plato's work in different ways. The Stoics, for example, borrowed Plato's emphasis on virtue and reason, albeit adapting it to their own framework that emphasized harmony with nature. Meanwhile, the Epicureans, while departing from Plato's idealism, still acknowledged the importance of philosophical reflection as a means of achieving happiness, a concept indirectly related to Plato's broader exploration of the good life. The very diversity of these schools demonstrates the incredible adaptability of Plato's thought, its capacity to inspire new interpretations and innovations. The Roman Empire, in its vast expanse, proved to be a fertile ground for the propagation of Platonism. Roman thinkers like Cicero, deeply influenced by Greek philosophy, translated and adapted Plato's works, making them accessible to a wider Roman audience. They didn't simply reproduce Plato, they engaged with his ideas, wrestling with their implications for Roman law, politics, and society. The debates that ensued within the Roman intellectual circles were just as lively and sometimes as fierce as those within Plato's academy, creating a new iteration of the ongoing philosophical dialogue. The early Christian thinkers found in Plato's metaphysics a conceptual framework that resonated with their own theological preoccupations. While the church initially grappled with reconciling Plato's ideas with Christian doctrine, figures like Augustine of Hippo creatively synthesized elements of Platonism with Christian theology, creating a profoundly influential synthesis that would shape Western religious thought for centuries. Augustine's profound engagement with Platonism is a testament to the enduring intellectual power of the Academy's legacy. The merging of Plato and Christianity marked a significant inflection point, demonstrating the Academy's ability to impact the very core of religious and philosophical discourse. The influence of Platonism wasn't limited to philosophy and theology. It extended into the realm of politics and education. Plato's Republic, with its detailed examination of the ideal state, became a touchstone for political thinkers throughout history. While his ideas about philosopher kings might seem impractical today, the fundamental questions he raised about justice, governance, and the relationship between the individual and the state continue to fuel political debate and inspire innovative approaches to political theory and practice. The Academy's pedagogical approach also left an indelible mark. The emphasis on dialectic, on rigorous debate, and the critical examination of ideas became a cornerstone of Western education. The Socratic method, honed within the Academy's walls, continues to be a powerful tool for stimulating critical thinking and fostering intellectual curiosity. University lectures, seminars, and even everyday conversations still echo with the spirit of inquiry that Plato fostered. Beyond the specific doctrines and ideas, the Academy's broader influence lies in its embodiment of a particular approach to intellectual life, an approach characterized by rigorous inquiry, passionate debate, and a relentless pursuit of truth. This spirit, more than any specific philosophical system, is the Academy's most enduring legacy. It's the spirit that animates the best universities, research centers, and intellectual communities around the globe, the driving force behind endless dialogues, debates, and discoveries. The story of the Academy's influence is not one of simple transmission. It's a complex tapestry of adaptation, innovation, and reinterpretations. Ideas were constantly being reshaped, challenged, and redefined as they journeyed across geographical boundaries and cultural divides. The Academy's impact wasn't a static phenomenon, it was a dynamic and evolving process, perpetually engaging with the intellectual and social context of its time. The Academy's contribution to mathematics, particularly geometry, is often overlooked in discussions of its philosophical influence. The rigorous pursuit of mathematical truth, mirrored in the precision of geometric proofs, became a model for philosophical inquiry. The pursuit of certainty in mathematics served as a parallel, illustrating the potential for attaining knowledge that transcends the realm of subjective opinion. This connection between mathematical rigor and philosophical clarity is another underappreciated aspect of the Academy's enduring legacy. Furthermore, the Academy's influence is not limited to formal philosophical treatises and academic discussions. It has infiltrated literature, art, and even everyday language. The allusions to Plato's ideas, the echoes of his dialogues, and the enduring resonance of his concepts continue to inspire artists, writers, and thinkers across various disciplines. The ideas of justice, virtue, and the ideal state central to Plato's work have resonated deeply within the cultural imagination, shaping our understanding of ethical conduct and political ideals. Looking back at the Academy, we see not just a physical space, but a crucible where the very nature of intellectual inquiry was forged. The intellectual fire ignited within its walls continues to burn brightly today, illuminating the path for future generations of scholars, philosophers, and critical thinkers. The echoes of those ancient debates, the whispers of those sun drenched discussions, continue to resonate in the hallways of academia, a timeless testament to the power of ideas to transcend time and shape the course of human history. And perhaps, most importantly, it serves as a reminder that the pursuit of knowledge, though sometimes messy and contentious, is an endeavor worth pursuing, even if it occasionally involves a few intellectual sparring matches along the way. The legacy of the Academy isn't simply about the ideas themselves, but the spirit of inquiry they engendered, the spirit that continues to inspire us to question, to debate, and to relentlessly pursue the elusive truths that lie at the heart of human existence. The shimmering ideal of the Academy, a beacon of intellectual pursuit bathed in Athenian sunlight, often overshadows the less glamorous details of its operation. While Plato's dialogues explored the intricacies of the soul and the ideal state, the day-to-day reality involved a less ethereal concern: money. Maintaining a thriving institution, attracting esteemed scholars, and providing for the needs of students demanded a level of financial acumen that might surprise those who picture the philosopher solely engaged in lofty contemplation. We possess only scattered glimpses into Plato's personal finances, enough to paint a picture of a man grappling with the practicalities of running a major educational enterprise in a society where financial stability wasn't exactly guaranteed, even for celebrated thinkers. Unlike modern universities, With endowments and government grants, Plato's Academy relied on a complex mixture of patronage, student fees, and perhaps even a bit of shrewd investment. Imagine the scene: Plato, surrounded not only by eager young minds, but also by ledgers and accounts, meticulously calculating expenses and income, perhaps even engaging in the occasional heated debate about the optimal investment strategy for the Academy's funds. The role of patronage is crucial to understanding the Academy's survival. Wealthy Athenians, often drawn to the prestige of association with such a celebrated intellectual institution, likely provided significant financial support. This patronage wasn't merely a matter of charitable donations, it was often a strategic investment in the cultural and intellectual capital of Athens itself. Supporting the academy was akin to investing in the city's future, ensuring that Athens remained a center of learning and attracting talented individuals from across the Greek world. We can almost visualize these wealthy benefactors, bedecked in fine robes, engaging Plato in lively discussions, punctuated by the clinking of wine goblets and the rustle of silk as they committed their fortunes to the Academy's noble cause. The financial structure of the Academy was likely less formalized than today's universities, relying heavily on personal relationships and informal agreements. There were probably no elaborate fundraising campaigns or complex investment portfolios. It was a more personal, hands on approach, a reflection of the social structure of ancient Athens. Plato, as the head of the academy, would have played a key role in securing these crucial relationships and in managing the academy's finances, negotiating with benefactors, and overseeing the collection of fees. The question of student fees is a particularly fascinating one. Did students pay for the privilege of learning at the academy? And if so, how much? Were there scholarships or reduced fees for those from less affluent backgrounds? The available evidence suggests a tiered system, possibly with varying levels of tuition depending on the student's financial capacity and the intensity of their studies. Imagine the scene: a hopeful young scholar approaching Plato, a hopeful look in his eyes, perhaps nervously clutching a small pouch of coins, negotiating the cost of access to this intellectual paradise. The negotiation itself might have been a miniature drama, a subtle clash between the young student's hopes and the academy's financial needs. The potential for financial difficulties is not to be overlooked. Ancient Athens, with its fluctuating political landscape and ever-present threat of war, was not immune to economic downturns. Periods of political instability, or even a poor harvest, could easily disrupt the academy's funding. The delicate balance of patronage, student fees, and perhaps even some small investments would have been constantly tested. Plato, as ever the pragmatist, would have had to navigate these challenges, ensuring that the Academy's intellectual flame didn't flicker and die due to a lack of funds. Beyond the immediate financial concerns, the management of the Academy's resources would have presented its own set of challenges. Plato's vision of the Academy wasn't merely about lecturing, it involved fostering a vibrant intellectual community, a place of lively discussion and rigorous debate. This required more than just teachers and students. It demanded a well-maintained physical space, the provision of books and writing materials, and perhaps even the employment of support staff. The academy was more than a school. It was a bustling intellectual hub, demanding careful allocation of resources. Plato's vision of the ideal state, outlined in the Republic, included a sophisticated system of governance and resource management. It's almost certainly that these ideas informed his approach to running the academy. His concern for the just distribution of resources within the ideal state likely translated into a fair allocation of funds within the academy itself, attempting to provide equal opportunities for students of varying backgrounds. The management of the academy served as a practical expression of his political philosophy, a miniature version of his ideal state in action. However, the academy wasn't merely a classroom, it housed a library, a collection of scrolls and texts meticulously curated and preserved. This library represented a significant investment, not just in terms of acquiring the texts, but also maintaining and protecting them. Imagine Plato meticulously organizing the library, carefully cataloging the precious scrolls, ensuring that the knowledge within these ancient texts remained accessible to generations of scholars. This careful preservation of knowledge was a testament to his commitment to intellectual continuity and the Academy's role in safeguarding the legacy of ancient Greek thought. Moreover, the physical space of the Academy must have been a significant consideration. The buildings, gardens, and possibly even dining halls required maintenance and repair. This would have demanded a constant stream of expenditure, further complicating Plato's financial responsibilities. We can picture Plato walking the grounds of the academy, perhaps contemplating the repairs needed while simultaneously debating the nature of justice with his students. The mundane task of maintaining physical space, interwoven with the lofty discussions of philosophical ideals, illustrates the complexity of his task. One wonders if Plato ever found himself caught between the philosophical ideals of his dialogues and the practicalities of balancing the academy's budget. Did he ever lament the tedious hours spent on financial matters, preferring instead to be immersed in the world of forms and ideals? It's a charming paradox. One of the greatest philosophical minds of all time also had to be a shrewd manager of funds. Perhaps he viewed the administrative work as an exercise in applied ethics, the practical manifestation of his commitment to the well-being of his community. Therefore, examining Plato's personal finances illuminates the fascinating intersection of philosophical ambition and practical realities. It reminds us that even the most lofty ideas must contend with the mundane constraints of daily life. The academy, while an embodiment of intellectual pursuit, was also a complex institution requiring careful management and a degree of financial savvy. It adds a layer of human relatability to the figure of Plato, shifting the focus from the pure intellect to the man who navigated the complex web of finances and relationships that made the academy possible. The story of Plato's academy isn't merely a chronicle of intellectual triumphs. It's also a compelling narrative about the often overlooked realities of managing an institution, balancing ideals with the everyday pragmatics of finance and logistics. The philosopher king, after all, had to deal with earthly matters too, even if his ultimate concerns resided in a realm far beyond the reach of gold and silver. The legacy of the academy, therefore, is not just philosophical, it's also a testament to human resilience, adaptability, and the often surprising ways that lofty ideals can interact with the concrete reality of daily life.